What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast. Back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co host on, as always, Amanda. And Amanda, you got to be excited. Week 18, just 1 week away from the playoffs.
I mean, some of these games are already playoff games, so
Yeah,
it's gonna be a great week.
absolutely. And we get two games on Saturday tomorrow. I'm excited for this. 9-7 Steelers at the 13-3 Ravens. No Lamar Jackson, though. So it'll be Tyler Huntley. And it looks like Kenny Pickett, is benched. Like that's not a small story over there in Pittsburgh.
No, and I mean, it was kind of assumed throughout the season when he was, ready to go again, he'd be back in the game. But Mason Rudolph has been, showing his colors and putting up some good numbers. So it's definitely going to be telling in this game and then moving into the offseason what they do at that quarterback position.
Yeah, he's 2-0 as a starter, and the Steelers have scored 30 plus points in back-to-back games in his starts. So if they win this with no Lamar, he could go to 3-0 as a starter. And if they sneak into the playoffs, then all bets are off, and we'll see what Mason Rudolph can do. I don't expect them to go on a deep playoff run, but it's definitely interesting. And I mean, based on his struggles, how are you feeling about Kenny Pickett going forward?
I mean, I have never considered him more than a mediocre quarterback.
Hmm.
Do I think he maybe has potential? Yes. Do I think he is going to be that player who works really hard to improve themselves? I don't know if he has the right mindset. I haven't seen a lot from him that tells me he's going to be one of those work my butt off and prove that I can do it and improve as much as I can in the offseason kind of players. And maybe I'm wrong. It's just the vibe I'm getting. But I don't know. I mean, Mason Rudolph he is feeling it. He seems to be very invested in the team and in their success as a whole, as well as his own. And I just didn't feel that type of like pressure on himself, as far as Kenny Pickett was concerned.
Yeah, yeah, that offense has been so bad all year, and to see this spike in points now it was against two teams that weren't that great, but still, it's something. And if he can backdoor them into the playoffs, and it starts with this game, do you think Mason Rudolph can get to 3-0, go into Baltimore, no Lamar Jackson, no Odell Beckham Jr.? I still think the Ravens, I give them a decent shot at winning this.
Yeah, but I mean, they haven't. It just depends on how many players end up playing or not playing. Like on paper, obviously the Ravens are the better team, but they've got the number one seed locked down, and it just how many defensive players are going to sit out? We know they have a better defense than the Steelers
Hmm.
offense, but I mean, it even the players that aren't out for the game may only play a quarter or two.
Yeah.
So this is one of those games that like, yeah, we could pick from the teams on paper, but we honestly have no idea who all is actually going to play a majority of the game. So I'm gonna kind of roll with the Steelers here just because they're still fighting for something, and the Ravens have no reason to risk injury at this point.
Yeah, and the Ravens have been, beat up with injuries throughout the season. I agree with you. I'm going to go Steelers here, but yeah, it won't surprise me if the Ravens win too. But maybe this if the Steelers win this, and the Steelers are still playing for something, trying to get into the playoffs, so maybe a higher sense of urgency,
Hmm.
regardless of who plays.
Yeah, and
Um,
the Steelers' path to the playoffs, I mean, they would need to either win and then have a Jags loss, a Bills loss, or a Texans Colts tie. Or if they lose, they would need the Broncos to win, the Jags to lose, and either the Texans or Colts to, well, just the Texans or Colts to not tie. So I mean, it's they need a lot of things to go their way, and winning this game does a lot for them. So I just feel like the Steelers have a lot more on the line here and the Ravens are definitely going to be taking it easy. So,
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing that stands out is if the Steelers win and the Bills lose, the Steelers get in, pretty
mhm.
much. So,
Or the
um,
Jags lose. I would have more faith in the Jaguars losing than the Bills right now.
it's tough. We'll see on those. But speaking of the Ravens' health, the running backs, we talked about J.K. Dobbins going out for the year. We saw Keaton Mitchell go out for the year. So the Ravens signed veteran running back Dalvin Cook How much of an addition do you think he is? I mean, a bad year with the Jets, but we know he's capable, and Lamar really opens up the running lanes. We've seen the Ravens just plug running backs in and them have success. Why can't Dalvin Cook be a factor come playoff time, you know?
No, I think he absolutely could be. But we usually see like that first week of a player joining a team kind of being like an adjustment period. It is
Mm-hmm.
pretty rare when we see someone in their first week on a new team start putting up points right away. But I mean, this would be a great game for him to get in and get some yards with, their first round of starters resting and stuff and just kind of start to get a feel for the team. So I could definitely see him being a factor in this game.
Yeah. Uh, and we'll see if he gets a couple touches just to try to, get into the groove a little bit, where and get to know his teammates and all that. A big story. So we talked about Kenny Pickett. We talked about Mason Rudolph. Um, what about this scenario? Russell Wilson to the Steelers for 2024.
Yeah, I've seen that and it makes a lot of sense for me. Because we've seen what Russ can do under a good level-headed coach. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we know what kind of coach Tomlin is. And I mean, if we compared styles of coaches that Russ has played for, I mean, Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin, there's a lot of similarities. They're both, passionate about winning, but they're very much into that mentorship role for their players, and I could see Russ flourishing under him.
Yeah, and they're no nonsense. They're just like, hey, we don't care if it's pretty, just win, right? And that would fit perfectly for us. You talk about George Pickens and Pat Fryermuth and Deontay Johnson and those running backs, a lot of weapons there. He could be a perfect fit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where some of these players who and coaches who are up on the trade and move conversation to see where they end up in the off season.
Yeah, that's something I'm kind of rooting for. I'd love to see Russ in Pittsburgh, but a lot of teams will be looking to add him, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Broncos when he leaves too.
Yeah, I was under the impression they were going to. Jarrett Stidham was the franchise quarterback.
I don't see that at all. I don't understand that.
I'm just joking.
I know. Like I just and it's well for me my issue is they don't have a good enough draft pick. Like your record is too good
Yeah,
to, go for one of the top couple quarterbacks in the draft. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like if you, were a 3-win team, like yeah, go for it. Like get rid of your starting quarterback if you don't like him. But like you're gonna get a mediocre quarterback in the draft who isn't ready to start, and you currently have a roster full of mediocre second string. Like I don't see the point in it, but it's fine.
yeah. Me neither. They're gonna have trade for somebody or do something drastic and eat that money that Russell Wilson they owe Russell Wilson. So
Yeah, they like to make some ballsy quarterback deals, and then I mean they lucked out with uh Brock.
Peyton,
No,
uh,
no, no. Um what Brock Osweiler? Was it his?
yeah, Osweiler,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like some of these contracts that they've gotten taken off their hands, they've been really lucky with, and in this situation, that's not going to work out for them. So I'm glad they're finally having to kind of pay their dues for some of their riskier quarterback moves.
Mm-hmm. 100%. How about Saturday night though? This is a playoff game. I can't wait for this matchup.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. I mean, the stakes in this game. So we've got the 9-7 Texans at the 9-7 Colts. I mean, we've seen these teams be really scrappy over the years with each other. And it's crazy too because you look at the stakes in this game versus where these teams were last season. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in week 18 last year, they were basically fighting over the number one pick in the draft. Like the Colts lost, they knocked Houston to number two, and now this year, I mean, we're fighting over a playoff spot. So I mean, it's a great year to have like these rebuilt teams scrapping it out with a chance after where they were last year. And I mean, CJ Stroud is going to have another great game. We've seen him on fire most of the season. But the Colts have really warmed up at the right time, and they're leaning heavily on that running game. And man, has that been paying off for them?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard fought. I'm all in on the Texans winning this game. I don't want to see Gardner Minshew and the Colts in the playoffs. They have been playing better football. They're scrappy, but I enjoy watching this Texans team play. I'm a fan of rookie head coach D'Amico Ryans. C.J. Stroud is an absolute baller. Great opportunity for the uh, national broadcast for everyone to get to see C.J. Stroud up close, and
Hmm.
a big opportunity for C.J. Stroud as a rookie to prove himself on Saturday night, go on the road, and get your team into the playoffs. So all eyes on this matchup. This is going to be great, and I'm all in on the Texans. Let's go, Houston.
Yeah, I'm riding with them here too. I mean, the Colts have been leaning on their run a lot, but the Texans have the third best run defense in the NFL, and I can see
Hmm.
them just kind of slowing that run. And another storyline I like in this game a lot, Will Anderson Jr. You and I both liked him in the draft. And the past couple weeks, he's kind of making like a late case for himself for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he had 2 sacks last week. He's got a 26% pass rush win rate, and he's the third of all edge rushers on the season right now. So
Yeah,
he has another great game here, and the front runners fall off a little bit. He's making a pretty solid case for himself.
yeah, yeah. I mean, who would have thought, like you said, that either of these two teams would be here? We thought the Texans were going to finish last place in that division,
Hmm.
and I thought the Colts were going to be bad too, and that was with Anthony Richardson. Once he goes down, I thought they were going to be terrible. They're both right here trying to make the playoffs, both above 500. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night. It's a playoff game early, and yeah, I can't wait. Go Texans.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this game is if the Jags lose, whoever wins this game, I mean that's the division too. Like that's
Yeah,
it's insane that you can go from being first and second pick in the draft to winning your division the following year. I love the NFL.
and so what's the other scenario here? If the Texans can, or no, the loser of this game is out. They're knocked out of the playoffs. But the Texans can win this game if the Jags win. Let's see what the Colts do. So yeah, if the Jags win, either the winner of this game can still make the playoffs as a 7 seed.
Hmm.
So they don't have to win the division, but as an opportunity to win the division if Jacksonville loses. So the AFC South coming right down to the wire, and we should see two teams from the AFC South in the playoffs. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I love when teams who have already played twice in the season have to match up again at some point in the playoffs. It always cracks me up.
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about that with Hugh Jackson when he was on a few weeks ago. Like, you got to be getting sick of seeing each other at that point. Like, come on, man.
yeah, and it just makes for hard hitting football, right? You hate each other. You're tired of seeing each other. There's like a lot of pushing and shoving, and after the whistle shit. So, uh,
Yes.
um, how about Browns at Bengals? The Browns have already clinched the 5 seed in the AFC, so Joe Flacco won't play. Jeff Driscoll, of all people, will get the start for Cleveland against Jake Browning for the Bengals. Not a lot to talk about here. The Bengals just looking to finish the season above 500, which, all things considering, pretty good after losing Joe Burrow for the year.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're 8-8, which is great considering, what they've been through this season. I mean,
Hmm.
they had a hot streak for a little bit there with Jake Browning as their new starter. And I mean, they know Jeff Driscoll. Like, so it's gonna be a familiar matchup there. Because he started out with the Bengals early in his career, you know. He had five
Yeah,
games for Cincinnati in 2018. He was at training camp with them. So, it's gonna be a little reunion for them. But it's going to be a weird game. I'm kind of picking the Bengals here just because the Browns are going to be doing what the Ravens are doing, kind of like they can't win the division. Like, you may as well
hmm,
rest your starters, keep everyone healthy. Like, it's not like Pittsburgh can catch up with them. So, I I think we're going to see a lot of players that have been kind of overlooked this season making plays in this game. I mean, Marquise Goodwin, Cedric Tillman, kind of the second and third strings will get a good opportunity to show what they can do in this game. But I mean, it's just one of those games that it doesn't really matter for either team. They're just kind of playing for pride at this point, the Bengals. So I think we got to roll
yeah.
with them.
Yeah, my analysis on this game is give me Jeff Driscoll starting, give me the other team.
Hmm.
I've seen Jeff Driscoll since Florida. I saw him with the Lions. He's not any good. So let's go Jake Browning. Maybe he'll look like Jake Brady on Sunday.
Yeah, and Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals edge rusher, he is
Yeah.
currently tied for the league lead in sacks at 17. I think he's going to be seeing a lot of Jeff, but he could end up the league leader for the season if he gets, one or two here. And that's not a bad look for him. So I'm gonna roll with the Bengals.
Yeah, I know he's one of your favorite players, and that'd be pretty cool if he's able to pass up TJ Watt.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too because people have talked about TJ Watt. I haven't heard anyone talk about him.
Yeah, he goes under the radar, but if you
Yeah,
go
but
back
they're
to when the
tied for first. Like it
yeah,
bugs the heck out of me when the big names are talked about and then other people have better or equivalent records on the season and no one's even saying their names.
he played a
So
big role when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl against the Rams, and he's been a thorn in the side of Patrick Mahomes in those AFC Championship
mhm.
games. So there's no excuse for people not to know who he is.
Yeah, so I'm hoping he has a great game and takes over the lead and kind of wins out on the season in that stat. So
Hmm.
we will roll with them. But let's talk about your favorite two teams in the NFL. We've got the 7-9 Vikings at the 11-5 Lions. I know you're rolling with Detroit here. You've picked them every week. Oh wait, no, 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 no.
um, yeah, I mean, let's go Vikings, right? Nick Mullins is getting the start. The Lions have already clinched up the 3 seed. What the hell? Okay, so the Browns are resting their players. The Ravens are resting their players. The Lions are not resting their players.
I mean, right now they're in a three-way tie kind of with Dallas and Philly. They're all 11-5. And I think the issue with Detroit is they will play a couple good games and then fall apart. I feel like their concern is if they rest their starters, they're just going to lose all the momentum they have right now.
Yeah, because they tripped up and lost to Dallas in a game they shouldn't have lost, too.
Hmm.
They put
Um,
themselves in this position. And I mean, it's that whole argument, right? Rest versus, was it? Rest versus like being fresh and rhythm, rest versus rhythm.
yeah.
And um and you don't want to get someone hurt. Imagine Goff, or if they play Gibbs or Montgomery or Amon-Ra or Laporta, like any one of those guys gets hurt and misses the wild card game, that'll be huge. So I think it's risky. I don't see the benefit because they're the 3 seed. The only way they can move up is to the 2 seed. There's not a huge difference there. I'm
Yeah.
resting my guys.
Well, and I think that their players are starting this game. I don't think they'll be finishing the game. I can see most of the starters being pulled by the second half. And like, I mean, this is a division rivalry game. They met up, what, 3 weeks ago on Christmas Eve. Detroit pulled off a win there, but I think they're just trying to stay scrappy. Um, and I agree with you about resting our guys, but there are some teams that you can trust to, kind of take it easy for a week and come back swinging. And we have seen with Detroit, anytime they take their eyes off the ball this season, they have lost
Yeah.
games they should have won.
Yep.
So I feel like they're wrecking. It's a lot of self-awareness for them to not be resting their starters.
Well, it's about time we see some self-awareness from this coaching staff because there certainly wasn't any at the end of that Cowboys game. And I've been a Lions hater all year. Let me ride with it. Let's go Vikings. You know, if the Lions do pull their starters, it gives them an opportunity for Minnesota to steal this one. I mean, the Vikings had an opportunity to win 2 weeks ago against the Lions. Nick Mullins, I like him better than Jaron Hall. Let's go Vikings here.
I mean, you are as predictable as can be.
Are you going
Of
Lions?
course I'm going Lions. What are you
All right,
talking
let's
about?
go Vikings. I'm gonna hear that horn on Sunday all day.
Oh, is Kirko gonna be there shirtless with his kid again?
It's
So for the record, one of the reasons I'm rolling with the Lions here, and one of the reasons I think they're starting their
because you're a Lions fan. That's why.
no,
Oh,
I am a fan of Jahmyr Gibbs, and I will own that perfectly fine. But if he and Sam Laporta, Gibbs already has 10, Laporta has 9. If Laporta gets one more touchdown, they will be the first pair of rookies for any NFL team in NFL history to each have 10 touchdowns in the same season. So
Nice.
Laporta needs to be in this game and he needs to grab at least one touchdown because Detroit doesn't hold a lot of positive records in NFL history. Like a lot of negative ones, sure, absolutely. Like we can go through and talk about, how many things they've done wrong and they have the longest streak of this and the worst percentage on this. So, some positive stuff there would be good for them. So I can see them trying to just kind of run up their numbers a little bit in this game, which kind of makes sense about the not resting the starters. But Jared Goff he's been having a really solid past month. Like his past 4 weeks, I mean, he was blowing up fantasy football points. And I'm not a fan of Goff. I do not believe with fully agree with your statement, Goff is ass that you make repeatedly over the season to me. But he's playing really well right now, and we've talked about teams heating up at the right time. And technically, you are right about picking the Vikings here because the Vikings still do have a glimmer of playoff hope left. They would need to win this. They would need the Packers to lose and the Seahawks to lose. Also, either the Saints or the Buccaneers to lose.
Yeah.
So they have a 3% chance of making the postseason. And I can see them being scrappy, but also I feel like that little bit of hope is going to make them a bit more sloppy than usual. And with Nick Mullins at the helm, I don't know if they can afford to be any more sloppy than usual.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure, but this is a game that the Vikings are capable of winning. And what does it do? Here's a scenario for you. What if the Lions play their starters and they still lose? Does that then put a negative thought process in their head going into the playoffs that, hey, our starters played 2 games in a row. We're on a 2-game losing streak going into the playoffs. So a lot of things at play here to consider. Um, I get it. You want to get the bad taste of that Cowboys loss out of your mouth. The way that game ended just has the Lions like so pissed off and so in their heads about that. And it was an opportunity to get to the 2 seed. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's much more to lose by playing your starters here than to gain. And I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I would be resting my guys. And they better hope that the Vikings don't beat them with their starters out there. And what if the Vikings are up in the fourth quarter and the Lions are tempted then to leave their starters in for longer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also like you can't go into the postseason after your last game where you guys played as a full team being that weird
That
end of game 2 point conversion situation.
yeah,
Like you need to
yeah.
go in the postseason clicking, riding high, feeling cohesive, everything, firing on all cylinders. You cannot rest your starters for this full game and have that
It's
three-peat of the
true.
2-point conversion attempt being the last thing you guys did before the postseason as starters. That's not okay.
I think they're in a little bit of a tough spot here. As great as the season's been, and they're gonna have a home playoff game and all that, I think they're in a little bit of a tough spot here. And whoever they play, it's not going to be easy. And I believe it's going to be either the Packers with a red hot Jordan Love or the Rams. And the Rams have been pretty red hot too. And Matthew Stafford coming back in. So it's not going to be easy, Detroit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure you're wrong about the Vikings winning, but if the Vikings do win this, I will, eat some humble pie and we'll have a long,
Well,
hard conversation about that.
and then I can cut my lead down, your lead down to 8. So
I was
that'll
gonna say,
make
what
me
is it?
feel
Is
better.
it is 9, isn't it?
Yeah.
Guys, just so you know, we have decided that when the postseason starts, we're gonna make our brackets, and whoever's bracket goes further wins because it's just not fair to you guys if I keep kicking his butt. We figured we'd mix it up and just kind of start fresh after this week.
I wanted to keep it rolling because I'm confident that I'm gonna roll in the playoffs and catch you, but I'll give you the regular season title. I'll take the more important one in the playoffs. All right.
Not sure. I just feel like we're going to get rid of so much dead weight going into the postseason that you and I will have pretty similar opinions on the game. I just worry we're going to like pick the same teams each game and then it's just going to be boring.
Well, we're smart as hell, so we're both gonna kill it in the playoffs. So I
Yeah.
mean,
But that's what I'm concerned about. It's just going to be like, oh, the lead is still the same. Shocking. So speaking of things being the same, let's get back to the, that Jags three-way divisional tie here. So we've got the Jags who are 9-7 at the 5-11 Titans. I mean, this would be the Jags' first 10-win season since 2017. Trevor Lawrence is questionable, maybe. They haven't fully. Have you seen any news about officially if
I'll
he's
be
playing?
he is questionable. They said it might go up to a game time decision. I'll be shocked if he doesn't play. They need
Me
him.
too.
The playoffs are on the line. He's playing, in my opinion.
That's kind of what I figured. And he is very much of that Brett Favre, like, I'll play through anything if,
Yeah.
for the good of the team thing. So I put, Jags if Lawrence starts for sure. But I haven't seen anything official yet. He's still technically questionable. But we both very much expect him to play because he is pretty stubborn,
And
in the good way.
and this is not, in my opinion, a sure thing. The Jags might kick their ass, but I don't expect this to be an easy win. Um, Ryan Tannehill is getting the start. It's his last start as a Titan. He's going to be gone. So there's an opportunity for Tannehill here to play good football, his best ability. If he knocks the Jags out, keeps them from going to the playoffs, and the last thing people remember is Tannehill doing that and playing well, he's more likely to get signed somewhere and play next year, and compete for a starting role. Same thing with Derrick Henry,
Hmm.
who's likely going to be gone and a free agent.
And I
And
think he's going to have a great game. I think we're going to see
yeah,
him 100 plus yards. I mean, he's averaged more than 100 yards per game in his 14 games against the Jags that he's played in his career. 15 touchdowns against the Jags. He loves eating up the Jags defense.
and he's capable. I mean, when Derrick Henry's going off, he can go really off. I mean, he can go 200 yards, 3 touchdowns off. So, you
Yeah, I kind of
know,
have this as a 3-point game, but with the Jags with slightly more on the line as a team,
yeah.
pulling off a win. But I think it's going to be a field goal or less. But I mean, the Titans have individual things to fight for, but as a team cohesively, like they're out of the postseason. So I think the Jags are just going to be a little more scrappy.
I do too. I got the Jags winning this one, but it's a game to keep an eye on. And if the longer the game goes, where it's close and a one-score game where the Titans have a late lead, things are gonna get dicey. And
Mhm.
Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach too. So the Jags' goal here needs to be to put the Titans away early, and maybe you can take your foot off the gas in the fourth quarter and put Trevor Lawrence on the bench, and save him for the playoffs. That would be the goal here.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of individual incentives, DeAndre Hopkins, receiver for the Titans, I mean, if he finishes the game with at least 7 receptions, 49 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, that's another $750,000 as a bonus
Yeah,
for him. So individually, this Titans team, we're going to see a couple players trying to put up some really big numbers, for personal reasons.
couple
So,
dudes that can make plays
oh,
happen
yeah, we know
too.
they can ball. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see how that plays out. But the
yeah.
Jags, I mean, they can win the AFC South with the win. But even if they lose, they still have a wild card spot potentially, but they need a lot of other things. So the Jags winning is paramount for their postseason chances here. So I feel like the Jags have slightly more to lose.
Yeah, I mean they got to jump. What the Steelers will be in their way if the Steelers beat the Ravens. The Bills, if they lose to the Dolphins,
Hmm.
you don't want to go down this road if you lose this. So you want to take care of business and most importantly get a home playoff game out of it too. So
Yeah, they would need the Broncos to lose, the Steelers to lose, the Texans and Colts to not tie. Like there's just too many other moving parts. Like they're in control of their own destiny as
yeah,
long as they win.
yeah.
And I can see that being more of a driving factor for them.
That's why Trevor Lawrence has to play. I mean,
Yeah. And with his mentality, who I have a ton of respect for the way he thinks. Growing up a Packers fan, we saw Brett Favre play through some gnarly personal stuff and injuries. Trevor
mhm.
Lawrence reminds me of that, and I love that. A lot of
Yeah,
respect for the kid. So there's no way they're going to keep him off the field.
we'll both be shocked if he's not. Um, and then this is a barn burner. The 6-10 Jets at the 4-12 Patriots, likely Bill Belichick's last game as head coach of the Patriots. Trevor Siemian versus Bailey Zappi. But something to keep an eye on here, the Patriots have a 15-game winning streak against the Jets. Does that end on Sunday?
You know, I originally had picked the Jets. In my notes, I picked the Jets pulling this one off. But then, thinking about it, Bill Belichick's potential last game as head coach of the Pats, I don't think
Yep.
he's going to finish the season as a loser at home in his last game as the Patriots head coach. I can't see him going down. I mean, you go back to 2015, the Jets have yet to beat them. Like that's insane. And the Jets are so dysfunctional and they have, no hope of anything at this point. Granted, the Pats are awful this year. They're one of the worst teams in the league, obviously. But Trevor Siemian
Not
really
very good.
loves to throw him a pick six. So
Yeah.
I can see this being a defensive game. I don't expect to see maybe any touchdowns. I can see this being a field goal and a pick six scenario. And I don't really expect to see any offensive touchdowns, honestly, with the way these two teams have played lately. But I think the Pats are going to pull this one off for Belichick.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a battle of two bad teams, two bad quarterbacks, a lot of bad. And the big thing here is Bill Belichick's last game, and he's got a lot of pride, and he wants to keep that winning streak against the Jets. A lot of signs pointing to New England here at home too, and the Patriots defense hasn't really quit yet. They're still competing out there, so that might be the difference maker. I agree.
All right. Well, I'm almost surprised we agreed on that one, but again, we both are pretty in tune with the game and what's going on kind of behind the scenes, so I'm not actually that surprised. But let's disagree on this next one. We've got the 7-9 Bears. Oh, wait, actually, I think we skipped a morning game. My bad. We'll get back to the
It don't matter.
Bears. We'll
We can
circle
do that
back.
one.
Let's talk Falcons Saints first. Let's get rid of
Okay.
the morning games first. That was my bad. I got excited.
Let's disagree on this one. 7-9 Falcons, 8-8 Saints.
You're taking the Saints here for sure, aren't you?
I don't know.
Literally, okay, so I have a question mark here. We can disagree on this one, but I don't know. I mean, the Saints need to win, and they need the Bucks to lose to win the NFC South. But Alvin Kamara went out last week against the Bucks with the ankle sprain, missed the first two practices of the week. So he's in doubt for, a vital game that they need to win. And I mean, the guys they have in line behind him, Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller, we've seen them have some good games with some good numbers, but I mean, compare Kamara to those two guys, like obviously Kamara's going to win every time. So it's just a vital position to maybe not have your best player in for a must-win game.
Yeah, those guys are capable. Jamal Williams is good. Kendre Miller is good. They're not Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I love Jamal Williams. He's funny. He's a character. He played for Green Bay for a bit. Um, and I just, the trust isn't there, I don't think, with the team as much as it would be with Kamara.
yeah, they need him. If anything, if they can get him out there, they need him to go. I haven't seen. Let's see. 7 players questionable. It would surprise me if he doesn't play, right? Like tape it up
Yeah,
and just go. Um, but it also questionable is Taylor Henneke.
hmm
So that could be Desmond Ritter time. I mean, if Ritter goes, I'm going Saints. All signs are pointing to the Saints
yeah,
at home. They've been playing better of late. They should win this. My question is, we know it's the NFC South. Right when we believe in the Saints or the Falcons, they let us down.
exactly.
Um, but I'm gonna go Saints at home here.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints have been allowing more than 130 rushing yards in four of their past six games. And then we know that the Falcons have a couple weapons in the running back position. But Bijan Robinson hasn't really, I mean, I don't think he's eclipsed 91 yards since November 26th when they played New Orleans the last time. Um,
Hmm.
so he hasn't had a good breakout game, but he did have a pretty solid game against them before. And I kind of worry that the Falcons are going to be feeling scrappy here. With technically still a shot at the postseason. Um, but Heineke being questionable, you know how I feel about Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm gonna roll with the Saints here, even though pretty much every time I've picked them, they've lost. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm like a 52% sure the Saints are gonna win. So if I get this wrong, I will not be surprised.
Well, and it shouldn't matter, right? You know, Saints should take care of business here, but it shouldn't matter because the Bucks should take care of business in Carolina, and if the Bucks win, they're in. It's as simple as that. They've got the tiebreaker over both the Saints and the Falcons. The issue is the Bucks should have won last week and didn't.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they've opened themselves up now and a scrappy Panthers team. Who knows? They looked terrible last week, but the Bucks only beat this team 21-18 earlier in Tampa. So now you're in Carolina. Don't mess around, Tampa Bay. Come out here, play your best football, take some positive momentum in, and then you got a home playoff game. So I believe in the Bucks here. Do you?
I do. I'm picking the Bucks here. We've seen the Panthers knock off some good teams, some teams that should have won against them. And it's interesting. Their two wins are very, very odd ones, not the ones where you would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Bryce Young has 7 starts this season with no passing touchdowns in them.
Yeah,
He's one short of tying for the third most touchdown list starts of any rookie quarterback since 1950. I mean, Bryce Young
that's really
inspires
bad.
absolutely no faith.
Yeah.
Um, I almost trust the Bucks defense more than I trust the Bucks offense right now. I love Baker Mayfield. I've been skeptical of him at times this season, but he's 16 in QBR, which, middle of the pack, not shocking for him after this season, but he just he needs to have another good breakout game and kind of rebuild some of that faith that people have in him because we have seen him have some amazing shows. And the defense and him both need to be firing on all cylinders. We know Mike Evans is going to be there to catch the ball for him. I mean, he had 162 yards against the Panthers in week 13. He's averaged just shy of 140 yards in the past 4 games against the Panthers. So I'm gonna roll with the Evans Mayfield connection in this one and pick the Panthers to win and win the division.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks need to take advantage of this opportunity to put together a complete game and take positive momentum into the playoffs. And the offense is capable of it. Baker, we know, is capable of it. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, they can put up points with anybody. And that defense is capable of it. And we know they're pissed off. We know one guy in particular should be is Antoine Winfield Jr.,
Mhm.
who got completely snubbed from the Pro Bowl. His dad is pissed off. I'm sure his dad is messaging him like, make a statement this Sunday to the league for leaving you out of the Pro Bowl. So
I want to know how that happened. Like I know there's like a viewer voting situation that, helps control who goes, but how can somebody with no stats beat out somebody like it I'm so baffled at how that happened.
yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of Chuck Pagano talked about it. A couple players talked about it. They said, the Pro Bowl is just a popularity contest, right? They're like, no one takes it seriously, and this is how you get these awful snubs is just by like Zaire Franklin from the Colts didn't make it. Um, And Antoine Winfield is one of the biggest ones. It's like, what are we talking about here? So I don't know. But it's really bad. Like he obviously should have made it. But hopefully the Bucks show up. I mean, if the Jags without Trevor Lawrence can shut out the Panthers 26-0, why can't the Bucks show up and have a statement kick-ass win here in Carolina and leave no guesses about who the Bucks deserving to host a playoff game.
Yeah. And this needs to be a statement win for them. Like after last week, like it's okay to have an off week. You can't do it this week too, though. Like you have to
Yeah.
show up. They need to blow out the Panthers. They need to go into the postseason, win the division, feel red hot. And this can't be like a 3-point win. Like they need to
Yeah,
win this one by 14 and
or
show they mean
more.
business.
Yeah, and something I'm going to be looking forward to in this game is if the Bucks do get up big and the home Carolina fans happen to boo the team,
Mm.
does owner David Tepper throw his drink at the hometown fans? That's what I want to see.
So I saw something that broke. So they fined him what, $300,000?
Yeah, but they should
Um,
suspend him. I haven't seen any suspension.
I haven't seen a suspension, but somebody broke down, how much money he's worth in
Yeah,
comparison to what the fine was.
it's like 30
To
cents.
to an average American, it was like $1.32 or something. Like it's
Yeah.
such a tiny itty bitty like flick. I'm not even gonna say slap on the wrist, like just a little like flick on the wrist for him. Like what a what an
Yeah,
underwhelming consequence.
but if a player did that, he would have to publicly apologize and probably
Mhm.
be suspended a game, and they'd make a big deal about it. But an owner can do whatever he wants because he's a billionaire.
Yeah. So
I don't like it.
yeah, you and I agree on that one for sure. It's insane. Like you should be way more clear-headed than that as an owner of it. Like cameras are on you all the time. Like that's insane.
Yeah, terrible
But
look.
let's circle back to the one I tried to skip ahead to earlier. 7-9
Well, you were
Bears.
excited about this
I
one.
I am excited about this one. I got some shit to say. But here, you get started. Tell me why you think the Bears are going to beat the Packers in Lambeau in Week 18.
Well, it hasn't happened. The Bears haven't gone into Lambeau and won since 2015. Um, so it's a rare occurrence. And the Packers, even in Chicago, the Packers straight up have won 9 straight against the Bears. So it's a tall ask. It's a tough game to win. I'm rooting for the Bears here hard because we know how reactionary and week to week the NFL is. And if Justin Fields can play his best game of the year and outplay Jordan Love and knock the Packers out of the playoffs, then everyone in Chicago will resoundingly say, keep Justin Fields, bring him back. He's now the Bears quarterback. He's out here talking shit about Packers fans saying there's nothing to do in Green Bay.
Okay,
We
so
love
what's funny is like he said that. I don't think anyone took it as like shit talking. They're like, yeah, of course they're loud. There's nothing to do
it.
there besides go to the games. But they're like, yeah, that's what we like. That's their culture. I don't think that was an insult. I mean,
Chicago fans love that though. I remember when Joakim Noah from the Bulls said that about Cleveland. He's like, "What do people go on vacation in Cleveland? Like, what's there to do in Cleveland?" And it was awesome. It's a quote we still talk about to this day. And the Bears Packers rivalry is a lot of hate, a lot of you know old school tradition here, and so we haven't had a winner in Chicago in a long time. We haven't beaten the Packers in a long ass time. If Fields can deliver that win, that will do a ton. Screw the Bears season is done. Who cares? But it will do a ton personally for him. So I'm rooting for it. And it's a good test for Jordan Love, who's been straight up on fire of late. 16 touchdowns, just one interception since week 11. It's a good test because the Bears defense comes in pretty hot. As of right now, the Bears lead the NFL with 22 interceptions. So it could be a sneaky good game here.
yeah, what's funny is those stats since week 11. I mean, 1,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, a completion percentage of 68 plus. Um, the last quarterback to do that was Aaron Rodgers in 2021. And I
Wow.
mean, that was his MVP, his final MVP season for the Packers. So it's interesting to see how well Jordan Love has advanced. I mean, and I had no expectations coming to this season. I didn't really know what we were getting into. I was withholding judgment on him, but he has hosted dinner and a film session at his house every week since the season started, every Monday for the entire offense. It's open to defensive players too. At his house, just have everybody over and go over tape in his free time. Like he is clearly dedicated to the game. And I mean, the Packers right now, like I have a lot of optimism for them. I'm not expecting a Super Bowl win this year, obviously, but I have a lot of optimism. I mean, next year, as of right now, we have 5 picks in the top 88 going into the
Hmm.
draft next year. So I mean, these teams with these young quarterbacks, and I like Justin Fields. I think he should absolutely be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, and not in a way like, oh, we want Jay Cutler back because he throws more to the Packers defense than he does to his own receivers. No, like I think he legitimately deserves a spot as a starting quarterback, and I think he's going to develop into an amazing player. And I'm sure I will regret saying all of this later on when, the Bears start fighting the Packers for the division and and it's just a rivalry for years to come. But both of those young quarterbacks have shown so much potential and promise,
Yeah.
and the teams just need to build around them at this point. Like,
Yeah, it's an interesting time for both of our fan bases, both with two kind of unproven quarterbacks that we hope are going to be the future, and a lot riding on this game. If Jordan Love wins and the Packers get into the playoffs, it's a huge step for Jordan Love and a huge opportunity to even steal a playoff game. Like no one had playoff expectations or at least championship expectations this year
no,
in Green Bay. So if you
absolutely
can
not.
do it and overachieve and look as good as he has this year, there's a ton of optimism in Green Bay. And for Chicago, there's a lot of optimism around Justin Fields. And if he can deliver a win here in Lambeau, something that hasn't happened since 2015, there's a ton of optimism either way. And so it's going to be a fun game with both fan bases really into it. And I can't wait for this matchup.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that Bears number one rushing defense, fewest yards allowed per game, is going to be so fun to watch against Aaron Jones. I mean, the Packers hadn't had a 100-yard rusher all season, and then the last 2 weeks, Jones had 127 against Carolina and
Yeah,
120 against the Vikings. If he rushes for 120 yards in this game, it'll be the first time in Packers history anyone has ever done three in a row of over
wow.
120 yards. So I mean, I think that matchup is going to be so fun. And the Bears love being the spoiler to Green Bay's postseason hopes. I mean, that division, there's a lot of respect in the division, but if you can wreck someone else's season, I mean, absolutely. Like,
Yep.
I think it's gonna be such a great matchup. I'm concerned about DJ Moore against the Packers secondary. They've been an issue all season. They had an okay week last week. Um, but like you and I are kind of in the same boat where like if our team gets their pants beat off this week, like maybe the coaches we want to get fired will get fired. Like if the Bears lose 50
You
to
know,
12, like maybe Eberflus gets a firm kick in the butt. Like, if
yeah,
the Bears put up 40 on our defense, like Joe Barry is for sure leaving kind of thing. So it's
yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, um, hopefully, like you said, the NFC North, it's all rivalries. So they love playing spoiler. So it's go Bears, go Vikings this week. And hopefully it's a great game here. All eyes are going to be on this matchup. And Fields has some haters in Chicago. I would love to see him continue to tell him to shut the hell up. So, and then Jordan Love. I mean, I was talking shit this offseason saying there's going to be a huge fall off from Rodgers to Love, and he's a bust, and he's not it. He's proven me wrong a lot this year.
Hmm.
And can he continue to do it? Can he get these Packers into the playoffs? And we'll see what happens once he's there. But if they get in, there's a good shot. It's Packers at Lions in the wild card, and how much fun would that be? So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And I knew coming into this one we were gonna pick differently here, but good on us for rooting for our teams here. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna, cut it down to 7 games with that one. So let's keep it rolling.
how many weeks in a row has Alex said he was gonna cut down my lead, guys?
I'm doing math here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all right, I'm gonna pick against you in every game the rest of the way here.
So you're gonna pick the Giants over the Eagles?
Maybe.
Okay. You do that. I'm gonna record it. All right, so 11-5 Eagles at the 5-11 Giants. The Eagles, I mean, franchise record last season was 70 sacks. They only have 11 over their past 7 games. So their defense has been falling off. We know that they, have had a lot of issues over the past month. They, I I don't really know what's going on there. Like you and I have had a lot of conversations about what is wrong in Philadelphia. And honestly, I could see the Giants showing up and, Big Blue and running all over him here. So I'm gonna roll with the Eagles, but
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of faith in them at the moment. They
Look,
had their worst defensive performances, one of the worst we've seen in the entire year, honestly, last week. I mean, they
yeah.
gave up 35 points, 221 rushing yards to the 4-12 Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals are scrappy, but so are the Giants. And the Giants played the Eagles tough. When was that, on Christmas?
Hmm.
So in New York, the Eagles are reeling right now. They've lost four out of the last five. Devontae Smith is dealing with an ankle injury. That defense is not playing well. Pencil in the ear, Matt Patricia is not the upgrade they were hoping. I think there's a little bit of panic in there in Philly. And I listened to the press conference from Nick Sirianni, and he seemed to be stammering his words a little bit and a little unsure. Things are bad right now in Philly, I think. Give me the New York Giants at home here, uh, trying to whittle down your lead and going all in. It's week 18, got nothing to hold back. And why can't Tyrod Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and the Giants steal this one? So Giants at home.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
if that happens, the Eagles are going to be limping into the playoffs.
yeah, well, and I mean, when they first matched up a few weeks back, like we saw Saquon Barkley put up 80 yards, but
Mm-hmm.
their rushing defense the past couple of weeks, I'm concerned about Saquon Barkley this week. And
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of faith in the Eagles, but I have less faith in the Giants. Um, I just they're so up and down. I mean, I just
Yeah. And if Tyrod Taylor could hit a 2 yard pass to Saquon, they would have beat the Rams last week. So
mhm.
is that the Giants are playing good football and are capable of winning, or is that Tyrod Taylor's pretty bad? And it's hard to know. You never know. It's a week to week league. But I have more faith in Tyrod Taylor than I think than Tommy DeVito. So
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. But like the last two teams the Giants have beat are the Pats and the Commanders.
yeah.
Like, ugh. So, I mean, I do think the Eagles pull this one off, but I don't think it's going to be the type of blowout we would have expected from the Philadelphia team, we got used to earlier in the season. Like week 8, this matchup, I would have expected the Eagles to win by 30.
And
But
they need a blowout win. They need a
they
statement
do.
win here. Yeah. So
So yeah, we'll disagree on that one, but again, not very confident in those Eagles, so we will see how that plays out.
yeah. Um, Speaking of not being confident, the Seahawks still have an opportunity. If they win in Arizona and the Packers lose, the Seahawks can still get into the playoffs. At Arizona, they should be able to win this. Question is, will they? What do you think?
So, I mean, the Packers kick off 25 minutes before this game. So,
Mm-hmm.
when they
They'll
start this
know.
game, they still have a chance of
Yep.
making it in the playoffs. Like they won't know till what, the third quarter, what
Probably
the
the fourth, mid fourth,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
end
hope
of
it's
end
not
of
a
third, start
case.
of fourth.
I hope it's not that case of looking up at the scoreboard the whole game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And we've seen teams do that when another game was happening that affected their postseason chances and they've been distracted the whole game.
Yeah.
So, the chance would be a lot better for the Seahawks if they hadn't lost 5 of their last 7. I mean,
Yep.
that run defense has been so bad.
Yeah.
They have to show up here. And granted, the team they're playing, the record is a lot worse than the team is right now. Like a 4 and
Mm-hmm.
12 record, but I mean Kyler Murray is back and they've been playing really scrappy football. So
Yep.
I do expect this to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, the Cardinals just beat the Eagles, and we've just talked about how the Eagles weren't the team that we've seen all season. But like you gotta think that a Seahawks team who still has a shot at making the postseason is gonna show up and click and work out its kinks in this game. Um,
You would think so, but I was hoping for that last week, and they they couldn't beat the Steelers, the Mason Rudolph led Steelers, and the offense isn't really the problem. DK Metcalf did his thing. Gino had
mhm.
a good game. Kenneth Walker, even Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's the defense that was the issue, and we know the Cardinals are capable of moving the ball, throwing the ball down the field, putting up some points, and James Conner is a physical runner, so it's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I'm taking Seattle by a hair here. I mean, Kyler Murray has been playing some of the best football that we've
Mhm.
seen from him. I mean, he was basically perfect in the second half last week. And you know, rolling off of that, we've seen quarterbacks. I mean, Baker Mayfield off his perfect game. You know, we can see players going into a game riding that high or completely falling apart, getting too cocky and going the complete opposite way. But Arizona will rely heavily on that run. I mean, against that shitty run defense in Seattle, like just hand the ball off every time. Like they
Yeah,
rushed 40 times against the Eagles for 221 yards. They're going to do the
yeah.
exact same thing to Seattle.
And division rivalry, trying to spoil the other team's playoff chances. I'm
So,
I'm I'm gonna talk you into picking Arizona here, so I don't have to pick them, and I can take Seattle.
no, I'm gonna pick Seattle, even though I wrote Seattle, so I'm gonna stick with it. If you want to take the Cardinals, you can. I just
No, I'm
listen.
gonna take Seattle.
I have chosen against the Seattle Seahawks when it comes down to the wire late in the season and into the postseason multiple times as a Green Bay Packers fan, and they always find a way to thwart my plans and fucking make it to the postseason and pull off wins that I want them to not pull off. So Pete Carroll is kind of my nemesis here, so I'm gonna roll with him because he always finds a way.
Yeah, I mean that loss to Pittsburgh was so disheartening, but at the end of the day, they're the more talented team. They should win this game, and with the playoffs still alive, you would think they're gonna show up today of all days.
Yeah.
So I agree. Give me Seattle, but it's probably gonna be hard fought. It might come down to the wire.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. That was one of those ones that I'm like just a hair over one side. So we'll
How
agree on
about
that one for now.
how about the Blaine Gabbert led Kansas City Chiefs at the Easton Stick led LA Chargers?
God, can I just skip this game? Like
I mean, we don't have to talk about it much.
I'm just
Rasheed Rice is out. Your boy L'Jarius Sneed is out.
the
Chiefs have
list of
already,
players not playing in this game is a
yeah,
paragraph long.
yeah, it's ridiculous. Chiefs have already clinched a 3 seed. They're not trying to get anybody hurt.
I'm just gonna pick the Chiefs here, regardless of who's playing, because the Chargers have lost 7 of their past 9 games to the Chiefs. Um,
Gi- Give me
so
the Chargers at home because I want to catch you in
yeah,
picks. And I
this
don't
is
look. Here's my expert analysis. Blaine Gabbert starting. Give me the other team.
yeah. I just I it's just nothing matters. I mean, this game has there's nothing on the line. Um, Quentin Johnson is maybe playing for a I don't know a better contract in the future. He's had a rough rookie season, so maybe he has a performance gets to showcase some of the things he's done wrong all season and address them in this game for the Chargers. But other than that, there's literally nothing at stake here.
Yeah.
So I'll pick the Chiefs just because Andy Reid likes to find a way to win, just like Pete Carroll does. So yeah, but riveting stuff here, guys.
Yeah, no one's gonna be paying attention to this game except for me rooting for the Chargers. So,
Fair enough.
uh,
I'm not even going to turn this game on.
this would be a good game. 9-7 Rams at the 12-4 Niners. Brock Purdy's out, so Sam Darnold will start. And right there, you think, oh well, I'm gonna pick the Rams. No, the Rams are not starting. Matthew Stafford won't play. Kyron Williams won't play. Cooper Kupp won't play. So we get to see Carson Wentz against Sam Darnold.
Man, if that's not just the dream marquee matchup right there, I don't know what is.
Hey,
I
3 years
mean,
ago, that would have been prime time.
it would have. It's a better time now. I mean, the the Rams are getting 6 or 7 at this point. Like neither team is playing for much. Neither starting quarterback is playing. Like most of the main starters are probably going to be, resting here. Is The Niners have won 12 straight against their NFC West opponents, tied for the franchise longest streak since the 70 merger. Do I see the Rams trying to break that for them? Sure. Do I have any faith in the Rams? No.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think Sam Darnold will probably outplay Carson Wentz, and
yeah.
I still give me the Niners over the Rams here in a game that no one's gonna watch.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams have slightly more at stake. They could move up from the seventh seed to the sixth seed if they win. So maybe they care slightly more.
Well, they can lose and root for the Bears and still get the sixth seed.
Yeah. But they still have slightly more to play for than the Niners.
Oh yeah, the Niners don't have anything to play for.
So that's maybe the Rams.
Go ahead, pick the Rams. I dare
I literally cannot make myself do it. I'm trying to. I'm trying real
you.
hard. No, I can't. Sorry. Even with the San Francisco second and third string in, I still would absolutely.
All
Uh,
right, what's your expert analysis? Carson Wentz is playing.
oh God. I mean, my expert analysis is, I think, I don't know. I think Puka Nacua is going to be in long enough to break the NFL rookie records, and then he'll
There
be out
you
as soon as that's done.
go.
Um, that is the only opinion I have about this game.
Yeah.
Um, I think Puka is going to get 4 receptions, maybe 5, because I think he's 4 short of the NFL rookie record for receptions, and he needs like what 10 receiving yards.
I think it's like 30, but it's not much.
It's nothing. He's going to play a quarter, hit his numbers, maybe break the record by 1 or 2 each, and then rest out the rest of the game. But I mean,
What if
I
Carson Wentz is throwing it to the other team though? Like he's trying to go to Puka and he's just throwing pick sixes.
what if Sam Darnold is?
Darnold, Darnold's better than Carson Wentz.
Please defend Sam Darnold to me. Do it. I want to hear your positive
All
words.
right, you want to hear a hot take?
Give me a hot take on Sam Darnold.
Take Brock Purdy. Say Brock Purdy got injured for the season in the preseason.
Oh, don't do this. Okay, Brock
You could
Purdy.
start.
Oh my
Well,
God.
no, knock on wood. Like, let's say Brock Purdy went back to school for a year. He doesn't get hurt.
Well, no, you're just gonna do the whole, he's a system quarterback, you could plug anybody in, yada yada yada, aren't
No, I'm just saying that Sam Darnold could start for these Niners and still go to the playoffs. Kyle
you?
Shanahan's offense, Kyle Shanahan can. Now, Trey Lance couldn't do it, but Sam Darnold would fit that offense with Kyle Shanahan
Yeah.
and those weapons. But
Mm,
Sam Darnold's not any good either, so
yeah. I mean, I can't not take the Niners here.
yeah.
Just Carson Wentz is a liability, man. Anytime he's starting for your team, y'all should just be nervous, just for the whole game, season, whatever. But yeah,
who
okay,
would
we'll
you,
just agree on that one. I can't talk myself into taking the Rams. I'm sorry.
who are you more confident in, Carson Wentz or Sam Howell against the Cowboys?
Lord. Jesus.
I
Sam
wish
Howell.
I wish Jacoby Brissett was starting, but apparently they've abandoned that. So Sam Howell against the Cowboys, and Dallas is starting their guys because they're trying to get, if they win, they get the 2 seed, which is important to them in that home field.
They need home field. We've seen
Yeah,
how much better they do at home this year.
yeah. So I
I
mean,
mean, oof.
yeah,
Sam Howell had some momentum going. I mean, he had a great season finale last year in Dallas, or no, at
against
home versus
Dallas.
Dallas. They were at
Yeah.
home. But it's a different year, and I don't think there's any way in hell they repeat that. Their pass protection has been solid. He was only sacked 3 times in the past 3 games. But the last time they played Dallas, Dallas beat him up. I mean, it was what, 4 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, a ton of dropbacks. Michael Parsons had a sack and a half in that game. He's on 13 for the season. I think
Hmm.
Sam Howell's going to be limping in this one, and absolutely taking Dallas here.
Yeah, and I think the Cowboys want to also get that taste out of their mouth against the Lions, where they got thoroughly outplayed and got lucky to win that. And I think they're going to come in here and want to kick the Commanders' ass, make a statement going into the playoffs. I got the Cowboys big.
Yeah, me too. And Tony Pollard needs 65 yards to hit the 1,000 yard mark for the
Yeah.
season. He has not reached that number in the past 4 games. So I mean, week 3 in Arizona was his only 100 yard game of the season. So he needs to put up some numbers in this one to hit that 1,000 yard mark. And I know that's a number that's really important to running backs. Like once you hit 1,000, like you're considered, elite. So this is going to be an important game for him. But it's a great matchup for that too. I mean, Washington has allowed 166 yards per game on the ground over the past month. So it should be a solid game for him.
Yeah, and the Cowboys could have used that too, like a boost of the running game going into the playoffs, some confidence. They're going to need Tony Pollard in the run game and to be somewhat balanced in the playoffs. So this could be a good game to get that confidence up. So I'd feed Tony Pollard, get him the yards he needs first. Maybe he pops off for 100 plus and a touchdown or two, and then your confidence is high going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the ball, Terry McLaurin needs 54 receiving yards to be the first player in Commanders history with four straight 1,000 yard receiving seasons.
There you
Uh,
go.
so, a pretty big like stat game for some personal records for these players. But I just do not see the Cowboys giving up a shot at the second seed here and not just whooping on the Commanders.
Yeah, I see like a 34-13, maybe 41-13 type of game.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe 21 or so for the Commanders, but yeah, I
Yeah.
see it being a solid two to four score win for the Cowboys. As long as they don't choke. And we, have talked a lot over the years about how Dallas chokes when it comes to the big games, but hopefully
Well,
this is a different time for them.
they got their choke out of the way last week and
Oh,
still
that's
won.
true.
So,
So the extended season is working really well for Dallas. They're still used to choking in week 17, so it's perfect.
and then the game of the weekend, Sunday night football. I'm gonna have my popcorn, my pizza, my beer, get some edibles, get ready for this game. Bills at Dolphins. Winner takes the AFC East division and the 2 seed. And for the Bills, if they lose, they might miss the playoffs. So big ass game. The Bills are taking a 4 game winning streak into this. And we'll see the Dolphins, coming off a blowout loss. Xavier Howard is out, and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are questionable. I think they'll both play. Tua hurt his throwing shoulder last game. He's going to play. And then they also lost Bradley Chubb for the season last game. So all signs are pointing to the Bills, but it's a divisional game on the road in Miami. They can't take it lightly. They can't play around. This needs to be a statement win for the Bills, right?
And I think they have so much at stake here. They're not going to let this one sneak past them. I think they're going to show up and have a statement win here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if they win, I mean, right now they're the sixth seed. If they win, they could climb to number two. But if they lose, they could miss the playoffs if the Jags and the Steelers win their games. So
Yep.
this game is so important for them. And I mean, they've had some scrappy contests the past couple weeks with the Chargers and the Pats, but I think this is going to be a solid wake up call for them. And I do think they were looking past the Patriots game. I think they've been looking at this game for a while, which is maybe why they weren't on their A game the past couple weeks. And it's this Dolphins team that we've had questions about all season. Like, yeah, they've been fun to watch. They put up some big numbers. They've pulled off, one or two surprising wins, but they don't seem to show up well against actual good teams.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this is going to be illuminating another game that kind of shows the true limits of the Dolphins.
I agree. And, if the Dolphins do lose this, then they're taking a 2 game losing streak into the playoffs and likely have to go to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. So they could bottom out and lose 3 straight and be out of the playoffs just like that. So, this is an important game for the Dolphins. But the big question is Buffalo, and they've got their backs against the wall. They don't. Everyone wants to see this Bills team make the playoffs because if they get in, they're one of the hottest teams in the AFC. But they have to finish the job. They have to prove that they were looking past the Chargers and looking past the Patriots, and that those flaws in those games aren't for real. Like they're above that. Um, and so they need a statement win here. Don't play around. Don't allow the Dolphins to hang in here. beat the Dolphins like the Ravens just did, and the Bills are capable of it. Remember, in Week 4, they beat the Dolphins 48-20. So
Mhm.
they're capable of throwing up numbers on this Dolphins team. They need a statement win just like that. They need to do that again.
Well, what's interesting in that win is, I mean, Stephon Diggs torched them like 120 yards, 3 touchdowns when they matched up before. And they asked defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, hey, are you going to have Jalen Ramsey on Stephon Diggs in this matchup? And he wouldn't answer.
Yeah,
So I'm intrigued what his plan is there because we know Stephon Diggs has their number.
yeah,
And I mean, he hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game since week 6. So I think, with that defense, I think he's got a shot here. And then on the other side, I mean, the past 3 games, the Bills defense has given up the second fewest passing yards. So Tua really likes that deep ball scenario where, his receivers get deep and loose, and the Bills are the best against, or one of the best against that. So, I mean, I think this might be a tough game for Tua. I mean, he's entering this week leading the NFL in completion rate and passing yards. He's trying to become the 8th quarterback since the 70 merger to lead the NFL in both of those at the end of the season, the first since Drew Brees in 2011. But this defense might have the answer and stop him from reaching
yeah.
that number.
Yeah, and I think we kind of agree here. We're not super confident in this Dolphins team. They've proven for a couple years now that they have trouble beating the good teams. And on top of that, they're injury hit right now. So all signs are pointing to the Bills going into Miami and taking this one.
Yeah, and I
Um,
hope that happens. I will be very disappointed. I mean, Josh Allen was very self-aware and said, "Hey, I was distracted. I didn't play well this week. It was my bad." And he kind of took that loss upon himself in his post-game interviews last week.
mhm.
So at least it's something that they're aware of, and I think they're very focused on addressing that this week.
Yeah, and it'll just be a fun storyline going into the playoffs to be like, hey, here come the Bills. They were almost
Mhm.
knocked out of the playoffs. Now they're the two
Two
seed
seed.
on a 5 game winning streak. Like, look out. You know what I mean? So I think we're all kind of rooting for that. And we'll see if they can get it done. It's up to the Bills. Don't let us down, Bills. Play your best brand of football and show us who you really are. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of doubters, a lot of people saying, "Man, they're whoever loses this game is the frauds." They're
Hmm.
going to go to extremes. If the Bills win, the Dolphins are the frauds who can't beat good teams. If the Bills lose, the Bills are the frauds who can't
Who choke
play
in
up
the
to
big
their
games.
Yeah.
Yep.
So can't
Just
wait.
Yeah, I'm stoked for that game. Just real quick though, we accidentally skipped over the Broncos at Raiders. Two eliminated teams. The Broncos are 8-8 at the 7-9 Raiders. What these teams are playing for here. Um, Antonio Pierce's future with the Las Vegas Raiders. The team
Hmm.
has gotten behind him. I mean, Devontae Adams went publicly and spoke about how he wants to keep him around. I mean, he turned that 3-5 Raiders team into a team that, they're playing well together. The team is clicking. There's less fighting on the sidelines. But I mean, if he loses this game, then he ends the season 4-5. And he does have that one really bad loss to the Vikings, a 3-0 loss. So I think Antonio Pierce needs to win this game to kind of lock down his potential as a continued official head coach for the team.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to me. The players in this game will say a lot, right? The Broncos, like the Raiders players, have all been very vocal and very supportive of Antonio Pierce and saying how they like playing for him and they think that he embodies the Raider way and that he
Hmm.
should be there long term. So I expect the Raiders players to show up and play out to finish the season strong for Antonio Pierce. On the other side, I wonder how Broncos players are feeling about Sean Payton and the benching of Russell Wilson, and do they support that, or do some of the players say, "What the hell?" You know, what does Cortland Sutton think about this, or Jerry Judy, or guys like that? So this could be, to me, I think the players for the Raiders are going to show up more so than the Broncos. And give me the Raiders at home here.
Yeah, I'm picking the Raiders here too. I mean, they've already beaten the Broncos once this season. It was a 17-16 win back in mid-September. But it's interesting because all the drama around Russ, and like we know Russ is a good guy. Is he a little weird? Maybe. But last week, I mean, he went out as a captain and went out to midfield for the opening coin toss
Yeah,
after being benched because he wouldn't restructure his contract. Like I mean, it's a whole thing, but I seeing his personality and the way he does things, like, well, you may not want to be best friends with the guy. I think those players have to still have a lot of respect for him.
yeah.
So there's got to be a lot of tension in Denver. Something that I thought was really funny this week is we have talked about Antonio Pierce, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm really excited to see Stidham. I want to see him up close and personal, especially against Max Crosby." That's hilarious to me. He just called him out, like called him out in the pregame, and that is going to be a fun matchup to watch because we love Crosby. And I think Stidham might be in for a rough game.
You see, by the way, Max Crosby it was mic'd up, and he every time he hit Gardner Minshew, he said
Hmm.
little ass boy," like repeatedly, and Minshew was like on the sideline, like, "Why does he keep calling me that? That guy's an asshole."
I mean, she's so funny.
I like Max Crosby. He's a
Oh, I
dog.
love
So
Max Crosby too. He's
yeah,
funny. Like, so, I feel like all the momentum is with the Raiders here. I mean, last week, Aiden O'Connell, who neither one of us like, well, not that we don't like him, but
the
like
backup quarterback is what
he's a
he is.
backup quarterback. Like we're not
Yeah.
enamored with him. But I mean, 13 completions with Devontae Adams, 126 yards, two touchdowns. Like Devontae Adams has two 101 plus yard receiving performances and three touchdown catches in the last 3 weeks. Like he is. Oh, and also one of those touchdown catches was from Jacoby Myers, not Aiden O'Connell, just
Mhm.
to clarify things. But they're hitting their stride at a really weird time when they're already eliminated. But I think the morale of the team is the highest we've seen it in a while. So
Yeah.
picking the Raiders here is impossible. I'm happy they're happy. So I'm gonna roll with them here.
Yeah. Go Raiders. Beat the Broncos. Go Bills. Beat the Dolphins. Let's go Vikings. Let's go Bears. Week 18. And then the real football can start, the playoffs. And stay tuned for that, guys, because we're planning on having some big name guests on all playoffs long. We've got 3 lined up already, and I'm working overtime to get the biggest names possible we can for these playoffs. So fingers crossed, give us some good juju so that we can get some great interviews for you guys. And I'm sure Amanda is excited about that. I'm reaching out to a couple Packers for you, Amanda. So far, they're looking up and saying like, "This guy's a Bears fan. Like, why do I want to go on his show?" So we'll see if I can get him though.
I mean, send them my stuff. I feel like we should do a little special episode on Monday, maybe just a quick one during the Natty or something.
I'd
Because
do it.
just catch me in all my crackhead Michigan fandom glory so we can argue about Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan.
You're crackhead. You bring crackhead energy to the podcast every week, so it'll be nothing new.
It's so funny though, because like so many like friends and family are like, oh, I'm glad you get to like funnel that energy. Cause like I'll be watching a game with people. I'm like, oh, who are you rooting for? They're like, I don't care. I'm a whatever fan. Like, oh, the Broncos aren't playing. Why would I pick either one of these teams? I will get actively invested in any game and shit talk. Like I can go in San Diego when I lived there, I would go to like Rockies Padres games and I would actively just pick a team and just be fully invested and emotional about the game. Did I give a shit? No. Can I avoid picking a team and just getting invested? Absolutely not. So, yeah, Crackhead Energy, it's really nice to have a podcast to funnel it into now. So, you guys are welcome for my outbursts.
Well, then I'm gonna have you on, and I'm gonna be rooting like crazy for who are they playing? The
What do you
Washington Huskies.
what do you mean who are they playing?
The
Man,
Washington Huskies and Michael Penix Jr., who's a
what's
baller.
what's great though is like I'm out here in Washington as this is happening. So yet again, I'm rooting against the local team. So That'll be
You just
fun. I
love
gotta put
being
on
in
my
enemy
Michigan.
territory. That's your thing.
Always, always, man. I just love to be behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Well,
Well, we're
yeah,
excited to see how these games turn out. We'd love to hear some comments. Like, do you think Alex is a crackhead for picking the Vikings and the Bears over the Lions and the Packers? I would love some feedback on that. Uh,
good.
but I'm stoked to recap these games when they all play out.
Yeah, and Josh Gonzalez just wanted to go on the record as saying that he is rooting for the Bears this week and says, "Duh, Bears."
I feel like that's a crock of bull, but Josh, please set him right in the comments.
All right, peace out, guys.